It's about understanding matters and principles with wisdom. So the initial verse, with wisdom, we comprehend all phenomena. Okay, I take note of Sister Cyrene's question, and I will try to explain it in my way later. So with discerning wisdom means you're able to differentiate the substance and appearance of matters and things. I will try to explain what it means by phenomena and coming together substance and appearance in discerning wisdom all in one. When we awaken to the essence of all living things, the coming together of matters and principles is understood through impartial wisdom. So one is distinguishing, one is absolute, one is duality, the other one is absolute. Essentially, that's how I see things. Let me see. Okay, I'll come to that later. So the principles behind matters and substance of things, the same or different. We must clearly distinguish between the two. Discerning wisdom and partial wisdom each have their own function. So are the principle behind matters and substance of things the same? Now, maybe it's a good point here that I will try to put together the coming together of it could be matters, it could be objects coming together of people, for example. And so that coming together or that happening gives rise to a phenomena. So that's why we say to clearly understand all phenomena, discerning and partial wisdom must both be present. Okay, so we're coming together of the let's say someone saw me and Sister Carping and in town, and we're crossing the road. And here I'm crossing the road, there's heavy traffic, and I held Sister Carping's hand to cross the road. Then someone saw us holding hands. And then I drove Sister Carping home. A few things happen here. The coming of two persons, that's a phenomena. And that's being seen, that's a phenomena. But the question is, the phenomena that happens now, it happens, two persons come together, that's a phenomena. But the formation of the mind, so when we see that two persons coming together holding hands, that's a phenomena. But the mental perception, that's a skandha that gives rise to a perception, right? But the fact of the matter is, in the emptiness, if we see the emptiness of the phenomena, that's Carping, that's BrotherChin. Holding hand because the safety of crossing the road. But driving her back to Sierra Mas because both of us stay in Sierra Mas. So therefore, that phenomena that is a manifestation in the mind. But the non-manner, without the fee, the non-manner is Carping, BrotherChin. So therefore, that's why in the teaching we say that in the fourfold mindfulness, the last of the fourfold mindfulness is phenomena is without self. So therefore, that happening arising from there, interacting with the six root wishes of eyes, go to the mind, interact, come up with a skandha, and that gives rise to a mental formation. So, and that formation will create that perception. So Confucius said, listen to the words and observe their actions. Why they say that? Listen to the words, because the words spoken may not necessarily be truthful. Therefore, we observe the action, then we discern their intent. So when we are in practice, we need to be very mindful of the arising of our thought, because that thought that arises is premised upon the phenomena of what we see. And that phenomena, what we see, when in contact, when we have those the six dusts, will arise through things, the desire within us, whether we like or dislike that person. Two is the emotion as a result of that that give rise, hatred, anger, happiness, whatever the case may be. So these are the two ropes that tie the black cow and the white cows. Okay, so therefore, this arising of this of the skandhas, we must be aware of that, because otherwise, if we are not, then it's very hard for us to progress, to grow with the wisdom life. So being able to distinguish between the substance and appearance of matters and things is considered discerning wisdom. So in understanding the formation of a table, this is the example the master gave. It's just with the seed, and seed grows on the tree and produce wood, they chop the wood down. So to understand the essence, we rely on the impartial wisdom. So what is fundamentally the essence of that table is from the wood, from the tree just from a seed. So when the four elements then come together, and that's how things are being formed. So when fundamentally we know that what the fundamental essence of those elements, and then I give rise to the formation of what we see, whether the object, whether people, or the matter, or whether it matters, whatever case may be. So therefore, the discerning wisdom help us to distinguish in our understanding, because when we live in this world is in duality. It's good and bad, right and wrong, so on and so forth, light and darkness, black and white, and differentiating colors and things like that. But that enables us to distinguish and to live our life. But that's not the absolute wisdom we want to see. We want to go beyond that, and that is what the impartial wisdom is, that brings the awakening to understand how things come about and how none of its elements can be missing. So the coming together of matters and principles, as we understand with the impartial wisdom, which is what we want to do, go down to the fundamental part of what that matter is about. So the lessons learned. So we must respect for all things. This is coming together of matters and principles. And this is being impartial, because we go back to the fundamental essence of what the matter is. So we must nurture discerning and impartial wisdom in order to differentiate between the substance and appearance of matters and things. So the obviously the fundamental of the substance of it, or the principles of that, that's part of the impartial wisdom. But the coming together, the appearance of matters and things, that we need to discern that. So when then we awaken the essence of all living things, only then we can bring together matters and principles and treat everyone impartially. So therefore, but the fact of the matter is, we discriminate, right? We distinguish, and we distinguish because it's a man and a woman, it's black and white, it's brown, or whatever case may be. So we have this discriminative discernment, if you like, within us. So therefore, we have certain, because remember, I just said, when you see that differences, that's when the skandhas arises. So that feeling will come in, perception and manner formation. When we see someone in tattered clothes walking in, or this person, we got a certain mind frame of what that person is. But what we do not know is that that person could be a sage. So therefore, there's a difference. That's why you say that treat everyone impartially, because if we do treat everyone impartially, then there's no distinguishing factors as to person A and person B and person C. And we see the person as is. So that's where the difference is the consciousness. So the consciousness that we see things that that in our life, we distinguish one to the other. But when we grow in our consciousness and where you have all embracing wisdom, then you'll be impartial to everyone. And therefore, when you're impartial to everyone, you do not discriminate one to the other. Then we can reach the state of mind that we can connect to the great path. And that's what Master is trying to say. That so when we go in this path to grow in wisdom life, we got to learn to continue to grow this all-embracing virtue, so that we do not grow into, so that when we expand our heart, and then we'll expand our mind. And when we do that, we will gradually grow in impartial wisdom. But if we still have delusions of ignorance, our minds can change in a span of a thought. This is important to understand, because much that we may try to progress in our cultivation, but all we need is just one delusion or thought that will spin us off tangent, and for us to come and take a while and long time for us to come back to the path. So the Buddha had already thoroughly eradicated all those like ignorant thoughts and afflictions. So he had already taken the vehicle to suchness and wondrous Dharma to come to the world. That's why it's called the Tathagata, or the thus come one. So in summary, it is wisdom that we must seek. So in the contemplation, I try to relate this discerning and impartial wisdom to practice, and I will put that into I'll explain as we go along. Because Dharma is true, so too is impermanence in the world, right? And we know that impermanence is also the truth. So Dharma is degenerating in the world and will eventually end. So we are actually unfortunately in the third phase of Dharma age. First being the true Dharma semblance, that we're now in the Dharma degenerating age. And this degenerating age, some say it lasts for 5,000 years, some say it's 10,000 years or more. But the fact of the matter is, it will eventually end. That's what the Buddha predicted. So it's not Dharma, it's not that Dharma ends, but it is the world that ends the Dharma. So when the world does not abide to the truth, it will eventually come to an end. And that's where the problem that we face. So in this age, we must be mindful of the paths and the practices of others. So this is the thing about us when getting into practice. There are many paths, there are many practices in the world. So we must have that discerning wisdom to understand the differences. But yet we need to have the impartial wisdom to understand the essence of the practices. Because fundamentally, that for me, obviously I have interest whenever I meet people of other faith to learn a bit more about them, if they are open. And there are a lot of fundamental, the essence of the underlying part of it, they're fairly similar. So that is the impartial part of it that I try to learn. But yet there are certain things, that are differences, and I try to understand why the difference. And that's why I try to discern the differences and reconcile it. So observe the essence of discerning wisdom. So you observe with the essence of discerning wisdom, and when you observe that, when you understand the differences, you can find harmony in the differences. And you need the power of impartial wisdom to understand the same essence. So on relationship, this is about assisting relationship. Having understood the purpose of conditions, grow from conditioned practice to unconditioned practice and evolve in impartial wisdom. You see, in the conditioned practice that we are in, and this is where we live our life, conditions will come, when the conditions are right, our becoming so manifest. Right? So that is the discerning wisdom that we need to grow into. But obviously, because we are still struggling to be in practice, and ultimately, what we want to do is grow in the level of unconditioned practice, and that's when we can evolve in impartial wisdom. So, but before we can do that, we need to understand the emptiness of the of phenomena, because unless we understand that we can't be in an unconditioned practice, how then can we be in an impartial wisdom? So, be impartial to assist others along the path to grow and evolve as much as you do. So without distinguishing others, without looking down anyone, or without being afflicted by whoever we may dislike in seeing. So we need to get into this impartial of serving others to grow and help them to evolve as much as we can. So impartial wisdom grows with the bodhicitta motivation, because the bodhicitta motivation is about having that great compassion with the wisdom. And that is what we should be growing and be in practice, as Master has mentioned in quite a few of our past teaching. Therefore, self-transformation is just the beginning. So no one can change us, but this is self-transformation that we got to go through our self-growth and self-development. And that is only just the beginning, because our path then have to go to help deliver others. So don't forget that. So we not only in this life, so this is going to be numerous lifetimes ahead of us. So it is through your self-transformation that you can guide others to liberate their minds. So this self-transformation, and because you've been through the journey, you know what is involved, then only then you can help to guide others. Because when you do, you would then have gained experiential learning. Okay, Kanan, brothers and sisters, thank you.
Yeah, Kanan, so much. We are truly grateful to BrotherChin.
Have I confused you all?
Intoxicated, not confused. Intoxicated. Yeah, always wonderful to have BrotherChin here to share with us, wisdom and your guidance on these masters.
Intoxication, then I will be in breach of precept number 5,
Intoxicated,
no,
joyfully.
We slowly digest because you're very far ahead from us.
Yeah, so I think, yeah.
Sister Irene, do you understand phenomenon?